Ago, I made a video talking about what was going on in chapter 2, specifically the fact that Mommy Longlegs never killed PJ Pugapillar. The last game Mommy forces us to play in the game station is statues, which is sort of like red light, green light combined with musical chairs. But instead of avoiding getting tagged by another player, we need to avoid being eaten by a giant pug caterpillar Frank-esque creature. As the tape explaining how to avoid PJ throughout statues wraps up, we see him arise from the shadows behind the television. This is where we get Mommy's speech about her feeling like the children abandoned her, while also telling the player they deserve to die due to their employment at Playtime Co. Mommy finishes her speech and the music starts, indicating it's time to move or be eaten alive, and when the music stops and the light turns on, the player must stop moving. Though you can always hear PJ creeping up behind you as he never stops moving. If you do decide to turn around and sneak a peek at PJ when the lights turn on, you start to get a better look at him. He's brightly colored and fuzzy, just as many of the toys are, but he's also made up of a bunch of different segments. His eyes are dilated, teeth are shown through his wide smile, and not to mention he's extremely long. As the end of the statue's puzzle is blocked off by debris, the player must use the grab pack to smash through an observation room window and go down a hole in the floor to escape PJ's reach. This results in Mommy freaking out as she both expected and hoped the player would finally lose and that PJ would kill us, even saying, Statues is the third and final game of Mommy's that the player must beat, but we've already seen what Mommy does to the experiments she feels have failed her after we beat the first two mini games. The musical memory game, similar to Simon Says, has bigger body Bunzo Bunny attached to the ceiling by a cable and used as our encouragement to move quickly and be sure to remember the pattern. While the orphans would have been safe from Bunzo's reach previously, Mommy had no intention of stopping him if the player failed the game. When the player ends up succeeding or breaking the game, instead of smashed up by Bunzo's cymbals and eaten for dinner, we hear cymbals and thrashing as we leave the area. If we return to the game station after the fact, Bunzo is seen trapped within Mommy's webs, unmoving and assumed to be killed by Mommy for his failure to kill the player. The second minigame we play is Whack-A-Wuggy, where mini Huggies pop out of 18 different holes and we need to knock them back with a grab pack hand before they jump out and attack us. Like Bunzo, Mommy has removed any restrictions the mini Huggies used to have with the orphans playing Whack-A-Wuggy by cutting the strings that previously held them back from actually attacking the children. After smacking what feels like infinite waves of mini Huggies back into the blackness, the lights turn on and the Huggies stop appearing, finally indicating the player won the mini game. But again, as we leave the Whack-A-Wuggy area, we can hear the Huggies screaming. Later able to see them in the same states as Bunzo hanging from the ceiling, stuck among Mommy's webs. But how are we able to conclude that PJ didn't suffer the same fate by Mommy Longlegs? After leaving the statue's game room, Mommy is heard desperately trying to convince the player to come back, as we don't really beat the last minigame, though that was of course, due to Mommy rigging it by blocking the exit. We hear a lot of Mommy yelling at the player in this moment, but more importantly, we don't hear Mommy punishing PJ Pugapillar like what we heard with Bunzo and the mini Wuggies being punished. We also don't see PJ after the statue's minigame, though we were able to see the others' bodies after Mommy killed them for their failure. So where is PJ, and will we ever see him in Poppy Playtime again? In chapter 3, we see the body of a PJ Pugapillar used in Catnap's shrine, but is that PJ we meet in chapter 2? If that is our PJ's body, then this scene insinuates Catnap to be PJ's murderer. At the same time, could us now knowing that Harley Sawyer had eyes throughout the factory paired with the prototype keeping him around because of his usefulness also mean that the prototype was the one who dealt with what Mommy couldn't? It's clear the prototype knew Mommy was dead the second it happened and took her body for his own upgrades. But then he could have possibly went and finished off PJ, with Catnap then taking PJ's body for his shrine. But if you look closer, there isn't just one PJ at the top of Catnap's shrine, but a second one at the lower rear of the shrine. Keep in mind that we've had evidence of multiple PJ Pugapillar experiments existing, as we see in the restricted restoration recording. While looking through Braun's eyes, we can see that PJ was among the experiments who attacked Thomas Clark after he was turned into Braun. But we also see what appears to be the second PJ, as the two PJs are very different sizes, with one having empty black eye sockets and the larger PJ having glowing lights within his eyes. It doesn't appear that the little PJ would be the PJ we meet in chapter 2, but it's possible the big PJ is the same experiment. With all the little experiments we see that also have bigger body versions, it's not out of the question that there were even more PJs roaming around at one point, with the secondary lab being another source of evidence for this. In chapter 4, we come across the body of a PJ experiment on an operating table, tagged as experiment 1398. The voices heard during the player's hallucination said that this PJ was brain dead and they were going to scrap the experiment for any useful parts remaining. It's possible that this is one of the PJs we see on Catnap's shrine earlier, and that Harley took it for experiments after Catnap's defeat. Or maybe it's a whole different PJ. But if PJ was alive and scurrying throughout the factory, where would he even be at this point? If PJ were to run into Catnap, that would mean PJ would have to venture deeper into the factory where Playcare is, or even further, if Catnap or the prototype didn't get to him. Like I said before, bro might be able to move faster than a train in the dark, who knows? PJ could possibly maneuver anywhere throughout the factory at an insane speed, maybe even to the deepest parts of playtime, leading to the player running into PJ once again in the next chapter. Realistically, there are only two outcomes for PJ Pugapillar after we leave him at the game station in chapter 2. The first is that PJ is dead and gone. PJ likely remained alive after we beat Mommy Longlegs' games and her fit of rage left her tangled and crushed to death, in turn leaving PJ to his own actions. Since PJ was mentally more like a dog than a human, there's a good chance that PJ got bodied on one of his daily strolls throughout the factory by either the prototype or Catnap, because who else is taking on PJ at his size? Or he straight up just starved to death, though this does seem less likely. The second option is PJ didn't get bodied and will be able to stroll the other levels of the factory due to Mommy's negligence. Not getting any true closure about PJ's whereabouts even in chapter 5 makes it clear we still have more to learn about him, and we may even see him in chapter 6. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.